Michael Scales has been with the Longwood Small Business Development Center for how many years now, Michael? Two? It's been two?
Over two, going on my third year.
Yeah, going on your third year. He comes from a long background of business ownership and business analysis and finance. He brings a lot to the discussion. So I'm going to start with just asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in your line of work.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I came from a family of entrepreneurs. Basically, my father had a business. I went to college to get a degree in finance, specifically to come back and to run the family business. And during that transition, we decided to grow, and we moved from grading around houses, building houses, to building highways, bridges, and dams throughout the state of Virginia. So that's what I do. My background is in finance. And so someone asked me, right, how do you do finance, but yet you're doing a lot of engineering work? And the answer I tell everyone is, once you learn how to do formulas, it doesn't matter if it's a time value of money or a degree of a curve. If you can do a formula, then that's you can do it. So now I enjoy what I'm doing because the experience that I have helping people. So I think someone had mentioned today about getting a business launched. So this week, just yesterday, I had two people establish, get their LLC and the EIN. They were a little nervous, so I walked them through it. And the most touching thing was there was a lady that wants to start her business, and she does laser printing, lasers, and makes designs. And she had no idea that I was in the Idea Center, which is sort of like a maker space, which we had a big laser machines, and we could etch. And so when I showed her the machines, she started crying. And I think that touched me. So she's a happy camper, and I got a thank you email today, was at least a page long.
So tell us a little bit about your time in your business and getting started in your business and how you grew that.
Well, it's an interesting story. What happened was my father did grading. So he just graded around houses, people's yards, and did driveways. And so that was all I had to do. So I actually grew up around heavy equipment. And so my whole goal, I went to University of Virginia, is to get a business background to come back and help the business. What had happened is I'm a finance major, and at that point, they have a project called GMP, which is your whole project is making a 400-page paper. You're predicting the economy. And so we chose manufacturing housing, reading all the magazines, the brands, and then I realized that the economy is getting ready to tank. Houses going to go down the tubes, and my father didn't know what's going to hit him. So that's why I came back home, and we transitioned from building grading around houses, which there's no, in fact, in Martinsville now, the only new houses are ones that were built 20 and 30 years ago, to building roads and bridges and highways. So that was my story. We transitioned based on the research.
Okay. Tonight we're talking about pricing and actually selling to a customer. When your clients at the Small Business Development Center come to you about pricing their product or service, what goes into that decision?
Two things. Number one, I had one customer just opened up 4 months ago because I was a coffee shop. And the first thing we tell them to do is do reconnaissance. Let's see the lay of the land, see what the competition is. First thing you want to see what the competition is and what price are they charging. The competition is, for example, Simmons in Martinsville. But we're going to look at Danville. We're going to look at Rocky Mount, other localities to see two things. Number one, the prices they're charging, how many customers are there, and we're going to recon enough to see what they're buying. That's the first thing. And then we're going to come back and look at what it is to make a cup of coffee, all right? Not just a cup, but how much you might buy a coffee, but how many grams goes in a cup? How many ounces of milk? How many napkins? So we can get that unit price of what it makes to make one product. Once we do that, then we'll compare to see, are the prices reasonable, or we're not shopping trying to be the best price. We want to make sure we make money. So all of those go in, but the factor that's most important is establishing your brand and the quality. You want to make sure whatever price you give, the customer feels that it's worth the money that they're spending.
That's awesome advice. I know this is an area that most people starting a business have some hesitation about, finding the right price and starting on the numbers, and it really challenges your thought process. So I think with co-starters, what we want to do is approach it like one step at a time and give you bits and pieces to work on each week. But I want to emphasize that the SPDC and Michael and our whole team is here. If you get stuck, you can always call and get a little coaching along the way. So don't ever forget that. And also, as Lauren put in the chat, if anyone is ever in the Martinsville area, the SPDC office is at the Idea Center, which has a makerspace, which is really, really cool. And so Lauren put that link in the chat for you. And we're actually working on a similar type of facility here in Farmville. So fingers crossed, if the funding comes through in the next year, we'll have that going here to connect to SOVA Innovation Hub and the Idea Center in Martinsville. But back to Michael. What is one of the stories? I know you mentioned the lady that came in and made something in the makerspace. What sort of businesses have you seen come in and you help them develop that pricing, and then it was really a success story, one that you really want to talk about that could be a great example for these folks?
Yeah, that one is the ones that's starting now. That's the coffee shop. And it's called the ground floor. It's in Martinsville. The gentleman's not from Martinsville. He's from Houston, Texas. He's an Exxon engineer, moves his family to Martinsville, starts a coffee shop. Martinsville's a small town. So he has the expertise that we did looking at prices, but the most important thing we did is work on the business plan. I met him because his banker sent them to me to help with the finance. So in that business plan, we're trying to figure out what all can go right or wrong. So the good thing is he has twice as many customers that we ever imagined he would have had from day one. Now he's 6 months in business and his customers are still twice as much as we imagined. One of the unique things of the business plan, we're trying to find out what could possibly go wrong. One of the things could possibly go wrong, and you plan for it. That way it doesn't, that way you can kind of say, okay, we kind of knew this was coming. So there was a rumor in Martinsville that Starbucks was going to be coming to Martinsville. So we put Starbucks in Martinsville in our business plan, okay? And what has happened, we announced this week, Starbucks is coming to Martinsville, which is the only thing that we missed in our business plan. We thought they might have been a mile away. Now they're going to be 2 miles away, but that's okay. Because by having that business plan, we prepared for it, give us enough time to build our brand, build our following, get our pricing, because we sell more than just coffee. And so it's not a sweat that Starbucks is coming. In fact, it may be a compliment. It may help his business. So I'm very, very proud of that what he has done, because basically he literally sacrificed everything to move to Martinsville to start his dream.
Yep, we have 3 coffee shops now in Farmville, including the Starbucks. Actually 4 if you count Barnes and Noble, which has a Starbucks in it.
Right.
One has a niche, and they're a little bit different. I have one more question, and then I want to open it up for questions from the class members. What advice would you give the folks in class right now, knowing where they are in their journey? What advice would you give them?
2 things. Number one, I'm a big proponent of the business plan. Brainstorm and try to figure out what can happen, good or bad. Do your research. Doesn't mean that way you prepare. It's like a pothole in the road. It doesn't hurt you or your car to have a pothole in the road, as long as you know it's there. So if you see an encounter and you know it's there, you know how to work around it. You can work around it, go somewhere else, or just drive over top of it. Where it becomes a danger to you is when you don't know it's there and you hit it or you swerve, and that's the accident. So the advice is make sure you do your research, brainstorm to see the good things that could happen or the bad. Like, for example, we don't see Starbucks as being a bad thing. Do the research. The other thing is, so my biggest thing is the business plan, as well as looking at the pricing. And a good example was that one of the things we found out with this coffee shop that with frappes, he was starting out at five. Now, I'm not a coffee drinker, so I really don't know all his products, but he's $5.25. And he was selling so much, he's trying to slow down the sales, so he raised it to $5.75, which is almost a 10% profit. And guess what happened? The sales didn't go down. The sales, so we realize now that is inelastic. It doesn't matter as long as they don't get too high. And so that pricing is always going to be ever continuous. And so my advice is know your customer and do your business plan.